Premium build, serious horsepower, plenty of features, and whisper quiet fan noise. That's the mini PC dream, right? Well, the Beelink SER9 Max promises all of them, and while it isn't perfect, it gets surprisingly close. We've seen this pristine metal exterior before, and it's very much a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Build quality and engineering wise, this gives off the most premium vibes of any mini PC I've tested. Beelink's branding can be confusing with various CPUs used across the same model name. However, this particular SER9 Max we're looking at features AMD's Ryzen 7 AI 350, an 8-core 16-thread chip paired with Radeon 860M integrated graphics. Inside the box, extras are light, just a HDMI cable and a bulky 19V 120W power supply. Pricing sits at $929 for 32GB of DDR5 RAM and a 1TB NVMe SSD, both on Amazon and the official website. There's also the option of double the RAM available or 2 other CPU variants. Alright, let's look at the ports. On the front is a power button, clear CMOS, 3.5mm audio jack, USB-C 10GB data only, and 10GB USB-A. A modest Wi-Fi 6 chip is used for wireless and Bluetooth. The back has another 10GB USB-A, but the one below it is USB 2, as is the last USB-A port. The standout feature is a fast 10GB LAN jack, which is very rare and only found in the Max line. There's also DisplayPort 2.1, HDMI 2.1, 3.5mm audio jack, USB 4 40GB which supports power and display, and the barrel jack power connector. Beelink is still using those annoying glued on rubber feet over the screw holes. They're awful to peel off. Fun fact, last year's Tricky R8 mini PC used the same chassis design without glued feet, and it was glorious. Okay, once you've unscrewed the dust filter, you get a 1TB Crucial Gen 4 SSD under a custom heatsink alongside 32GB of Crucial DDR5 5600 SODIMM RAM, the max speed supported. As we've seen in the past, the RAM gets enough cooling from the bottom intake. Very nice. On the software side, the SER9 Max ships with Windows 11 Pro. While it's malware free, it does come with a few pre-installed apps. They're easy enough to uninstall, but I'd still like a completely clean image. If you prefer Linux, Ubuntu runs flawlessly out of the box. Alright, time for the benchmarks. The out-of-box configuration was tested, but there's a performance mode in the BIOS which was also put through the ringer. Let's see where the AI7 350 lands. In Cinebench single-core CPU, it's pretty impressive, beaten by only a handful of chips and close to the top Ryzen HX mobile CPUs. The performance mode made no difference here. Next up is multi-core, and the 350 performs well. Again, only falling behind the Ryzen HX chips on the AMD side. Performance mode adds 2.5%. Geekbench single core shows very strong performance, and also in multi-core. While this is Geekbench 6, 7 has just been released and adds more relevant everyday tasks to the overall benchmarking suite. I bought it, and there will be a slow transition over with minis going forward. Anyway, here are the first scores for single core and multi-core to get started. On to H.264 CPU video encoding. The 350 does well, only behind a few CPUs. The much longer AV1 video encoding test doesn't move the needle. The CPU maintains its position. If we add the iGPU to the AV1 encode, it's pretty decent and only gets beaten by the same CPUs as seen in the earlier benchmarks. One area where the 350 does impress is AI CPU workloads. That's not the case when testing the iGPU with the same AI workload. Since we haven't looked at the Radeon 860M yet, I was curious where it lands, and it's not quite up there with the Radeon 780M found in the top previous generation. Compared against the best 780M score, the 780M is 15.5% ahead in Firestrike, just 6% in TimesSpy, and 12% in Steel Nomad Lite. So while the SER9 Max with the 350 chip is clearly better in CPU metrics, the Radeon 780M still beats the 860M by up to double-digit percentages. Okay, so we know the iGPU is weaker than the 780M, but how does it compare to the Radeon 890M, AMD's current flagship for the wattage? Here it is, side by side. No frame gen or upscaling.
So if you're listening in your car or you're kicking back on the bullet train, well, enjoy your day.
For emulation, the Ryzen 7 AI350 handles most high-end retro titles without too much trouble. And if you need serious graphics horsepower down the line, the USB 4 port supports external GPUs just fine. Okay, back to more charts. Out of the box performance for compiling code isn't impressive, but turn on performance mode and it does really well, reclaiming its spot just under the HX Ryzen chips. Adobe Photoshop performance is an outlier, with the SER9 Max taking the top spot. I ran this benchmark around 10 times to be sure, and for a sanity check, I looked up Puget Bench scores, and the 350 can hit this with ideal conditions such as proper cooling, fast SSD, and so on. So there you go, we have a new winner for Photoshop out of the box. However, it does just lose to a couple minis in performance mode. The SER9 Max also does great in Adobe Premiere, even beating some of the Ryzen HX minis. And one reason why is that it comes with a better SSD than most, scoring high on the storage benchmark. Cooling for the SSD is good, with a low maximum device temperature when the mini is running hot and the SSD is heavily used. Bluetooth range is mediocre. Since there's no plastic in the middle or top of the unit, it relies on the signal coming in underneath. Still, it does decently, all things considered. It's far from the worst. Wireless range is okay, with no dropouts at 12 meters or 39 feet from the router using the 5G band. An idle power draw of 8 watts is good, while the maximum hits around 90 or 100 watts depending on the power mode, which is typical. The SER9 Max came back with the same maximum CPU temperatures as the SER10 Max, which is to say, better than most, and staying nicely below 100C. Which is especially great since fan noise is excellent. Beelink once again beats the competition to take another top spot on the chart. This is one of the quietest minis out of the box on the market for this performance caliber, and is still great with a higher power mode. There are rare times when the fan ramps up higher than these numbers briefly, but 99% of the time, these low results are what you'll be experiencing at worst, and it's a huge win over other mini PCs. Nothing's changed with its size. The SER9 Max is using the same chassis as other recent Beelink minis we've looked at. It's comfortably under 1 litre in volume, but definitely not the smallest around. Mashing the delete key on startup gets you into the BIOS. In AMD CBS, MBIO common options, GFX configuration, you can change the VRAM limit, which is 4GB by default. FCH common options, AC power loss options is there if you need it. Hardware monitor lets you change the fan options. In OEM features management is the power limit setting, and there's the option for NVMe RAID support. If you're looking for Wake on LAN, I didn't see it. Best ask Beelink. They do release BIOS updates and might be able to include it. Finally, in AMD overclocking, you can change the precision boost overdrive and maximum temperature tolerance. Not really overclocking, but there you go. And now, let's see how it holds up with the checklist. Beelink's SER9 Max has an impressive metal case and the build quality is excellent. You get what you pay for though. It's not cheap, and unless you need the 10 gigabit LAN, you're better off with something like the SER8, which comes in at a lower price. There's no bare bones option available, the power supply isn't compact, and no VESA mounting if you need it. Oculink and dual LAN are also not present. However, it is easy to open and ticks almost every item on the checklist. The OS comes with pre-installed apps, which is not great, but at least it's malware free. Performance, cooling, fan noise, and everything else is good to excellent. Beelink provides a 3-year warranty, which is what you'd hope for the price. The SER9 Max is an excellent mini PC with some small drawbacks, mainly with the feature set. Although those wanting 10 gigabit LAN will be happy with this being one of the few options out there. As was seen in the charts, performance, cooling, and fan noise is excellent. All metrics that I value highly. So if this one meets your needs, it's highly recommended. Oh, and the previous Beelink Mini we looked at was the SER10 Max, which has an even more powerful CPU, and you can find that review right here. Cheers!